great to have you on.
Thank you. So lovely to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Rachel is a friend from Bali, and she's an abundance and business coach, and she helps entrepreneurs like myself take that next level of growth and rise in their business, and in all levels, not just financially, but in all other areas, which has been something that I've been on that journey. And I did her program Reclamation a couple months ago, and really saw that kind of shift in my business since focusing on the blocks that we have, that we experience, especially as entrepreneurs, and kind of having to sell ourselves, which I know some of you listening are probably in that field. And if you're not, even when you're in a corporate setting or in life, we need to be able to understand where our blocks are when coming to our finances and our what we want to receive in our life. And I think that's something that you're really passionate about sharing. And maybe you can just kind of give a little bit of a story into kind of how you got into this business, and why it's so important for you to share this with other people.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for that introduction, Brian. And yeah, I am so passionate about this. I'm so passionate about working with particularly entrepreneurs to reclaim their power back. And often it does mean that we have to uncover a lot of stories and conditioning around money, but it's also about empowerment. It's also about expression. Like, it's also about how we relate to work and to money and all these things, which can be so challenging for people. And I've been in the wellness industry for a decade now. Oh God, this sounds so long. And I started off yoga teaching, and then I had my own retreat company here in Bali. And then I sort of slowly started edging into coaching. Like, I was a bit of everything, a bit of a life coach, bit of a business coach, bit of a everything coach. And when COVID hit, we had to close our retreat company, and a lot of our teaching started to dry up, like in person, obviously, like the in-person classes, the teacher trainings. And I really focused on being completely online and really just coaching. And I was predominantly health coaching and life coaching. And obviously what COVID did for so many people, including myself, was brought up so much stuff around money, so many stories and so many confrontations. And I'd already been doing a lot of the money mindset work myself for a while. And that was a time where I was like, okay, I'm knuckling down on this work, because this is really mirroring so much for me. And as I went through that, I realized that I really wanted to teach this, because there weren't that many people that I could see who had that background in spirituality, in the wellness industry, in the personal development industry, who really could speak to people who were yoga teachers and were coaches, and were perhaps balancing that point of, can I be both spiritual and wealthy? Like, isn't that a total paradox? Because so many of the teachings are translated as being that you can't. So that was really my impetus. I was like, I want to share this because I genuinely believe that the people who are the coaches, the healers, the therapists, the teachers, if we can all be wealthy, it only amplifies more of what we're doing. So that is only going to be for the good of ourselves and for other people.
And why do you think, so many people listening, myself included, that's been something I've had to really work on, and continuously, it's like a never-ending journey, is getting out that state of scarcity. And I know that's something that you're, really, are you welcoming scarcity into your life? It's like normally like a headliner. And I remember when I saw it and I was like, oh, it hit me, because I definitely have experienced moments of where you go into that fear state where, we were speaking, I think before, like in a workshop you did about the energetics, and how it's so easy for us to come from that place of scarcity, especially if we experience it as childhood, as part of our subconscious programming. And what does it take to really shift from that kind of conditioning to consciously every day choosing to create that or see the abundance everywhere, and not just in your financial situation, but in your relationships, in the food that you get to eat, you know, how did it take you to really shift that? And obviously it's a continuous process, but yeah, what kind of journey did you have to go on? Is it something that was quite a struggle for you, or is it naturally kind of took that shift and felt quite, it happened quite easily?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. I'm so glad that we've started on the scarcity topic first. So scarcity is a big topic, like that fear, and I'm sure that I'm going to go out on a limb and say everybody that's listening to this has or is currently experiencing some kind of scarcity around money, around their work, around where their next client's going to come from. Are they going to sell enough places in their group program? Are they going to, whatever it is, right? There's so many stories that come into this, and we can be, as you say, like really gripped by that scarcity, and it can become really debilitating, and we can start to make decisions from that place of fear and scarcity, which isn't necessarily the best thing. Okay. But so for me, the journey was intense, and straight up, it still continues to be a big journey. Right? Because here's the thing about scarcity that I've really come to learn recently is that we never get rid of it. It never actually goes. And this is where I've taken a little bit of a shift in the work that I'm doing. So, until recently, I've been very much focused on like the money mindset, like how can we shift our beliefs? How can we shift our thoughts? How can we shift, therefore, our experience around money, around wealth, around abundance, around work? But this also ties into joy. It ties into pleasure. It ties into so many different things, right? Because pleasure and safety, pleasure and security is so intrinsically linked, right? And if we don't feel safe, well, it's really hard to experience pleasure. And we have to have both for money to come in as well. We have to feel safe, and we have to be able to enjoy for money to really flow in and through us, right? Because we don't want money just to flow in. We want it to flow out as well, for all you hoarders that are listening. It's got to be a beautiful flow of money. And what I have been doing until recently, like you say, is really focusing on like the mindset, on the beliefs, and realizing after a while, I was like, this is great. And I'm definitely having some really big shifts. Like, I'm really aware of my beliefs. I'm really aware of my limiting patterns. I'm really aware of the conditioning of my family, of my ancestors, of my lineage. I'm really aware of all that. And stuff is starting to shift, because obviously when you take stuff out of the unconscious and make it conscious, then the light of awareness is a beautiful thing. But I was like, but this doesn't feel like the whole piece. I don't feel like this is the whole thing. And through some deep dives and studying with other teachers and doing my own work, I realized that it was very heady, right? It was very much this sort of, okay, I'm focusing on my thoughts. It's very heady. It's the mind. The mind is masculine. Money is masculine. Safety is masculine. And I was missing this whole piece of the body. And I was like, hang on a minute. The body's got to play a part in this. The body has got to be an intrinsic factor in money. Okay. So, and as I started to dive into this, I realized that, scarcity and fear it's a body-based experience. Pretty much all of these things are body-based experiences before they are mental experiences, because the mind follows the body. So by just trying to create safety in the mind and not looking at the body, we're missing like a huge part of the equation. By just trying to enjoy money from a mental perspective and not looking at how we can experience pleasure in the body, we're missing a massive part of the equation. So the thing with scarcity is that, and I've spoken to people that are at the, seven-figure level, multiple seven-figure level in business, and they still experience scarcity. So I was like, scarcity is never going to go. So if we're spending all our time trying to like smash the living daylights out of scarcity and be like, go away, it's utterly futile. Like, it's so futile. So it's like, okay, well, that doesn't work. Like, I've seen proof that doesn't work. It hasn't worked for me. I don't know anybody that doesn't have scarcity. I don't know anybody at the multiple $1 million level that doesn't experience scarcity. So what do we do? Well, to me, the answer is we embody it. We actually lean into it. We integrate it, right? Because with any shadow work, right, as I'm sure you probably know, because I know you've done a ton of shadow work, right? We're not actually trying to make the stuff go away. We're integrating it because it is a part of who we are, right? We're not trying to like destroy our past and make it into this bad thing that can never appear in our existence again. It's actually, we want to love it and we want to hold it and we want to embrace it and we want to figure out what the lesson is. Like, so it's like, oh, cool, scarcity's here. What's it here to teach me? Okay, cool. So that's the work that I'm now moving into, right? Is really embodying, like, how can we feel scarcity in the body? And how can we connect to scarcity? And then how can we learn from that? And then how can we create safety in the body? Because we have to feel safe in the body before we can feel safe in the mind. And we have to feel safe in the body and the mind for money to come in. Okay, and the same with pleasure.
And do you feel like there's this always that piece of like the masculine, feminine, like the masculine's doing, and I've experienced that, you know, especially for those listening that are in that kind of the first year or two of business, and it's kind of go 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 go. And now I've probably been the second year of my business, and I'm now more, definitely more in my feminine and more kind of less do. And I think you get to, you know, it changes, it's always changing. Do you feel like you have to have that balance between the masculine and the feminine in the business side of things? And how do you feel that, do you feel when your clients or you are in one energy stronger than the other, and does that block your level of receptivity when it comes to clients, abundance, all of that kind of stuff?
100%, 100%, yes. And the norm, you know, in our sort of society is to be more in the masculine. You know, I don't know many people that are more in the feminine when it comes to business. From a perspective of like their kind of their habitual way, right? You know, their kind of unconscious way. Like most of us are very sort of unconsciously in the masculine. And absolutely, like we have to have that balance. Like it's so important that we do, because when we, you know, and this is just, you know, the very obvious thing, like when we're constantly in our masculine, we're very, very prone to burnout. And when we're very prone to burnout, we're constantly sitting in fear and scarcity and not integrating it, right? And we're acting from that place. So all of our decisions, all of our business decisions, all of our money decisions will come from fear and scarcity. And that's, it doesn't go well, basically. And energetically, our clients feel it. Right, like you feel when somebody's kind of needy. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those experiences on sales calls with other coaches where they just feel kind of needy and a bit grabby, and it's like, oh no, like that doesn't feel nice. And it may not be that you couldn't actually articulate what the issue was or why you didn't really gel with them, but deep down it may well have been that they were coming from a needy place and it just didn't feel good. And this is why I think it's so important for coaches, healers, therapists, teachers to really integrate this work into them, because nobody really wants to learn from a coach, healer, therapist, teacher that's got like real, say, money issues, right? Who's not doing that kind of work, who's in a really needy place. Because whenever we're doing this work with people, it's an energy transfer, right? So it's like, would you want to work it with a burnt out healer? Probably not, right? Because like what they're not integrating, right? They're not being truly authentic in what they're doing. And I love this thing one of my teachers said the other day, was like, practice what you post. Right, which I think so many people don't. And then, you know, coaches, you know, if you're coaches, healers, therapists, teachers, and you're like, oh, I wonder why am I not getting the clients? Like, why are people not coming to me? Like, what is it? Like, oh, you know, and often we look at the masculine for the problem. Like, oh, I'm obviously not doing enough. Oh, I'm obviously not posting enough. Oh, I'm obviously not this enough. And it's like, it may not be that. It could be a real energetic thing where you're coming across as being really needy, you're coming across as being a bit desperate, and you're repelling people.
Yeah, I think we've all been there where it's almost like, I know in my like first stage of business, it's almost like how you don't know how not to be needy because you actually really want to help them, but also energetically like, well, I do want to help you, of course, but I obviously need to value my time and energy. And I think so many people listening can relate where, the first stages of business and, it fluxes from time to time where that flow isn't fully there yet and you're not receiving that kind of, it feels like you're giving more than you're actually receiving. And it feels quite,
Mm.
and then I think you do feel like burning out, or you do burn out because you've been giving so much and energetically it hasn't been coming in, and then you feel depleted. I've definitely been there, and it's something that I've been working on the last 6 months, is how I can give in a more authentic way and not over giving. And do you see that with a lot of people, is they over give to compensate from that place of scarcity?
Yes, yes, for sure. And, a lot of, especially early in business, like people offering their work for free or doing a lot of things, for very, very cheap, that just basically doesn't feel good. And this comes from a place of people pleasing. It comes from a place of not really understanding what your boundaries are.
Mm,
So, one of the things I often say is you receive what you make yourself available for,
yeah,
right? So it's like if you are getting a lot of, say, draining clients, or you're getting a lot of people who are really expecting you to work for free for whatever reason, well, you're putting that energy out there.
yeah,
So then people learn to expect it, and you teach your clients how to treat you. I mean, you teach anybody how to treat you. You teach your partner how to treat you. You teach your friends how to teach you. You teach your clients how to treat you. So like if you are in these experiences where you're like, oh my God, everyone's expecting all this stuff of me, it's like you've taught them that.
mm,
So how can you look at really honoring your boundaries, like honoring your yeses, honoring your nos, knowing that as we progress through business, as we kind of up level, as we expand, as we grow, the people that were our kind of clients, were our followers, were those people that were so dedicated, are possibly going to drop away
yeah,
as you're shifting. And that's the hardest part for people, I feel like, having sort of coached a lot of people through business, is that thing of like, yeah, but what if I lose my clients? Like I've got these people that have been following me and do all my free stuff and sign up to all my like low cost stuff, and I'm they're what if they go? It's like they probably will, and that's okay. And because what you're doing by up leveling is you're creating more space in the market at the level that you were for somebody else to come and step into
mm,
your shoes. And there'll be somebody that's moving out the way for you to kind of up level. And each client, like each individual person, like they're on their own journey, right? And we don't own them, we can't make them do anything, and if they get annoyed, that's their own thing, right? That's their own shadows that they will or won't work through.
yeah. I think we have to not take it so personally. I mean, there's definitely a piece to like energetically when we are coming from that scarcity place, or like, I need you, they can feel that. But I also think, like, I mean, last year I remember like I was working with a lot of people, and it kind of, yeah, it did burn me out a little bit. Not to the point where I couldn't work, but I definitely was like, I need to change something in my business. So I put my prices up, and now I work with less people, but I earn the same amount or more. And it felt really scary because I was like, what if no one
Mm.
wants to pay that? I'm not worth it. So I had to really, and I think it was really amazing. Actually, I did your 6 week program in that process because it gave me that, yeah, gave me that permission to be like, no, I am worthy. Like I've been getting clients, I've been paying this much for, an 8 week program. Now I'm gonna up, I've grown, so I am allowed to, and giving myself that permission, which took so long. And I think at the beginning of our journey, which obviously you're a bit further down, but I'm still kind of, at the beginning. So I understand that's that fear of like, um, yeah, owning your worth and really speaking to the transformation you've seen with your clients, and knowing and trusting that you can get that with everyone if they put that work in. Um,
Mm.
and I think, yeah, do you find clients, or do people find that next shift, that even for yourself, like investing in coaches? I know you've spent, same as me, I've spent a lot of money on courses, on coaches, on programs to up level myself and therefore my business. Do you, you said, you spoke about this the other, a couple of weeks ago, and I really love what you said about how can you like expect your client to invest in you if you're not investing in you? Maybe you could speak about that as a
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, oh gosh, I can't remember who it was who said this now. Someone ridiculously famous. Anyway, I'll remember a bit later. But like, you are Warren Buffett. That was it. You are your best investment, right? And it has rung so true for me, and it is true for everybody, right? And just as long as you invest in the right thing. And I've made some great investments in myself, and I've made some terrible investments in myself, like super straight up. I've invested in some really not great or not synchronous like coaches or programs, and that's a really great learning in and of itself. But yeah, if you are again an entrepreneur, and you particularly if you're in a service-based business and you are expecting people to invest in them through you, then you have to be the model for that. So if you're getting frustrated, if people are really challenging your prices, so this happens a lot, right? Is that we're on sales calls, and then maybe someone's like, oh, that's really expensive. Like, there can be so many things going on. And then that's a whole nother podcast of like sales calls and stuff like that. But one of the things that could be happening is it could be a mirror for you. So just looking at like, if that is happening, if you notice that people are resisting in investing in you or through you for them, where are you resisting investing? Like, how do you show up in sales calls? Like if you see a coach, if you see a program or a mentor, are you someone that's like really like, oh, I don't know, like, is this worth it? Bouncing back and forth, like coming in, coming out, not being very decisive, like not really sure, like really second guessing it, being kind of a bit judgmental. Like if you're doing that, then that is 100% going to get mirrored back to you in the way that people are showing up for you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. So we have to dip our toes in that, right? We have to make investments that feel uncomfortable. Okay, we can't just stick within our realm of comfortability if you want to expand, right? Because our growth lives at the edge of our comfort zone. And that means in all levels. So you might be, and it's funny because I meet people like this sometimes who are like really wildly adventurous. They'll go and do all the crazy stuff. They'll go and like jump off buildings and surf the biggest waves and like, real like adrenaline people. I used to be like that when I was younger. Not quite so much now. But when it comes to money, they will not make any bold investment choices, right? So notice if you have like a sort of a bold courageousness in one area of your life. But with money, you're like, no, I'm just going to stay super safe, and I'm going to like hoard my money, or I'm not going to spend it, or I'm just going to, save it for a rainy day. I mean, what does that even mean? Right. So yeah, it's interesting how these things really do. It all mirrors back to us, right? So as long as you're willing to take those situations that turn up in your life and turn it around and be like, okay, like, how is this mirroring? Like, what is it mirroring for me? Like, where can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? Right. And it's the same with scarcity. As I said, like when you're experiencing scarcity, it's like, what is this here to teach me? Where am I meant to grow through this? Like, what is the thing that I need to move through? And I say move through as well, because so much of the work that I'm doing is embodiment, is physical now. So we don't just want to sit here and be completely in the head and be like, oh, analyzing analytical thoughts. How can I move this scarcity? Right. We need to embody it.
Yeah, no, I really get that. And I feel like, maybe you can share if there's a lesson or a mistake that you've made in business that kind of maybe cost you something. Or maybe you launched a program, it didn't do so well, or, anything in the past where you've had a big mistake and you've learned from it, and it's actually then propelled you into a greater next level of abundance or wealth because you've learned from that mistake and digested it and turned it into wisdom.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's so many. Like and this is key, right? We all make mistakes. Like we all have like failed launches or launches that don't go to plan, or make bad investments. Like so I've made some like clanging investments in coaches that weren't aligned, and that was a lesson in for me, in terms of really doing my due diligence around coaches, really looking at like, are they for me? And not from that perspective, like I mentioned earlier, of like, oh, in and out, and shall I or shan't I? And I'm going to question your prices and da da da. But just really sitting with like, is this the best person? Like, am I rushing into something because it's like a shiny object syndrome? And, you know, they're promising me something that I'm like, oh, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. And then realizing that it's not that they're a bad coach, but there's just a real misalignment. That's been a massive lesson. And I'd also say as well, like, for me, so I, you know, the example that is very sort of prevalent for me at the moment is this whole thing of like the money mindset work, which I'm not knocking money mindset work at all. Like it's great and it's really amazing and it's really powerful. But for me, I was like, there was something that wasn't quite sitting right as I was going through this. I was like, yeah, this is great. And I've, held space for a lot of amazing transformation of my clients who have gone through this work. I was like, but something's just not quite right. And I just kept on coming back to this thing. I was like, yeah, but there's something that's missing. There's a piece that's missing. There's something that isn't integrating. There's something that doesn't quite feel right. And, I was prepared to sit with that. And I was actually prepared to kind of scale things back and just pause and be like, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to wait and I'm going to feel into this. And amusingly, I was talking to a client the other day, and we were talking about this new evolution of embodiment that I'm doing now through the abundance work. And he was like, how did you get to that? Like, how did you discover that this was the next thing? And I was like, well, amusingly, I got to embodiment through embodiment.
Yeah.
I basically was like, I'm so tired of just sitting on my computer and being so head focused, right? Like before COVID, like I was teaching in person so much, we were facilitating teacher training so much, like I was moving my body so much more through my work.
Yeah.
And then over the last year, it's been very much, still been doing movement-based practices, but not anywhere near as much. I'm not teaching anywhere near as much. And I was like, I felt so in my head. So I was like, okay, I am shifting things up for me. I'm really going to just focus every day on really like deep embodiment, like moving through my emotions, moving through my experiences physically, rather than just being on the mat and doing like a rote, yoga sequence, right? Which is very masculine, right? So it's like a teacher taught me this pose, this pose, this pose, this pose. It's actually like feminine embodiment. Yeah. And through feminine embodiment, amusingly, I got to embodiment. I was like, oh, hang on, this is the missing piece.
Yeah.
Right. We've all been so in our heads. And now I'm moving into my body and I'm expressing wealth through my body. Because money and wealth has an expression, it has a physical expression before it has a mental thought. So it's like learning to express scarcity, learning to move through scarcity physically, learning to embody safety, learning to embody pleasure, so that the expression of money can be attracted to us, right? And so this was kind of going back to your question, is allowing yourself to shift and change, right? Even if you come on, and this was my whole lesson sort of like last year, the beginning of last year, was shifting into this work in general and going from being a health coach and suddenly talking about money. It was like I gave myself full permission just to change. And I think that's so important, is that we really listen to what's going on for us. And if something doesn't quite feel aligned, if we're teaching something that's like, do you know what, I feel like I'm kind of done with that, is giving yourself permission to stop.
Yeah.
Giving yourself full permission to, and this is it, this is the feminine, right? Is giving yourself full permission to do what seriously freaking lights you up, rather than what you think you should be doing.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And will that kind of, that expression of embodiment come out in your workshop? And I think it's in a couple of days it will be, when we launch this.
100%. Yes.
Share a little bit about that, because I know I'm gonna be definitely on it. I would love to be joining you guys.
Yes. So yes, it's called Embodied Abundant and Fully Expressed. And it's going to be sort of 90 to 120 minutes. We'll see how long. So 1.5 to 2 hours. And it really is exactly about this. So it's taking the money mindset work, which is, it's amazing work, like I say, and I still do the money mindset work, but it's taking that and embodying it. So moving out of the mind, like taking it out of this like overthinking, over analytical, like looking at our thoughts and trying to process them, and then using the mind, like it's all like, I'm going to use the mind to try and do this, I'm going to use the mind to try and do that, and literally moving through the body, right? Because all of our experiences, like the subconscious mind lives in the body. Okay, so that means that all our experiences, all our emotions are stored in the body. So using movement, we're going to be doing a lot of breath work, we're going to do like emotional release, and we're going to really like feel into the experiences of safety, of pleasure, of scarcity, and use the breath as kind of like an amplifier and a sort of exaggerator to experience true wealth within the body, because all of this stuff is an inside job, right? Like wealth is actually an inside job, abundance is an inside job, pleasure is an inside job, safety is an inside job. Okay, so when we connect to it on a physical level, and like I say, the body always leads and the mind follows, then we get to experience it on a mental level, then we get to experience it in real life. Okay, but we have to start from the inside. Okay, and we can't just start from the inside by looking at the mind. Okay, like there's two kind of main ways that people talk about like processing life, processing emotions, processing our experiences, and one is like top down and the other's bottom up, right? And what they mean by that is like top down being like we start from the mind and we move down into the body, and the bottom up means we start from the body and we move up into the mind. And all of the money mindset work pretty much that I've seen, or work around money and abundance, is top down, but it doesn't even go down into the body. It just kind of goes down to the chin, you know, or down to the forehead, you know. So it's very, very mental. So I'm sort of shifting it and going from the body up into the mind.
Amazing. Yeah, we did in your program like the hypnosis, and I remember doing the hypnosis, and I had this flashback of when I was a kid, of like picking up money from the floor, and then someone telling me off, saying that's so dirty, like drop the money. And then in my old job, when I was a bikini waitress, I would get money like in my bra and my knicker, you know, all kinds of like crazy places. And that was such a like a thing for me. It's like I felt dirty to receive money. I'm like,
Mm.
wow, that's been blocking me for so long, you know? So that was a really great insight. And obviously, you're in that kind of theta brainwave. So you do go into that subconscious um, programming that, you know, sometimes we just cannot access with that conscious mind. You know, we can tell ourselves abundance is our birthright, abundance is our birthright. But if we don't feel it subconsciously, then it's just going to keep blocking us. And I think that's, yeah, so powerful when we can really use that embodiment, use that expression of ourselves in movement, in breath, to, you know, holistically shift our you know, our problems and our programs and our issues around this topic, because I think so many of us are experiencing yeah, issues and struggles with finances, and you know, really like wanting to create more abundance for ourselves but having those blocks. So I think it's something that, yeah, I really love to speak about, because it's yeah, really important. And I think,
Mm.
imagine if we could all, you know, the women that we know and the people listening, I know so many of you listening are all doing amazing things. Like so many of my clients are shamanic healers and yoga teachers and, you know, Ayurvedic therapists, and, you know, we're all doing such incredible work, and we deserve to receive the abundance so we can give more, and have that ripple effect. And I think that's where the magic is in and the hopefully the rise of this new world that we're going to be creating, that's going to be coming from that heart place instead of that masculine head place, and we have to make that shift with our work, and embody that so we can help others and stuff. So it's really, thank you for sharing.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome.
Can you, look, before you go, I'd love to know what are 3 things people can do today that will start to shift them into that place of abundance from the inside. And then obviously, like you
Mm.
said, that's, it's a mirror. Your internal state is a mirror of your external state. So
Yeah. So one of the things that I recommend, like if you, and I was talking about this to a client yesterday, is if you're feeling really like gripped by scarcity, really just like, oh my God, like maybe you've just received a bill, or, you know, you just realized that actually you haven't quite got enough money to pay like something that you thought you were going to be able to afford, then just pause, like just stop everything you're doing, sit yourself down, like plant your feet on the floor, place like a hand across your chest and a hand across your belly, and honestly just take some really deep breaths and just allow yourself to experience whatever it is, but from a really grounded place. So kind of drop, again, it's, you know, we want to move out of this analytical mind, because the mind can only reference the past, right? It doesn't know what's going to happen in the future, but we think we know what's going to happen in the future, but we don't, because we've never experienced it. So you really want to take that like crazy energy from the head and just bring it down into the body so that it can actually sort of process a little bit better. So that would be the first thing to do, but it's really kind of get grounded rather than sort of keep your thoughts running over. And then another thing that I do, which is going to be a lot about what the workshop's about on Saturday, is put some music on and dance it out. Like, it doesn't have to be like super happy music, you know, to like shift your vibration, because it's not about, again, it's not about disintegrating. It's not about like, oh, I've got this thing going on and I'm going to try and hide it. It's like, can you let it move through your body? Yeah. Right? Can you actually feel it and move that experience through, so that you can allow it to express itself through the body rather than through the mind and through like really kind of erratic actions. Yeah. So there'd be two things. And then a third one, let me see what would be a good little achievable tip. I think a third one would just be a little journal prompt, actually. Would just be like, what is this here to teach me? So getting into that really self-reflective mode as soon as possible, right? Just like, what is this here to teach me? Like, why has this risen up? Like, what are the lessons here?
Yeah, and one of my teachers says like, we're going to keep repeating the pattern, and life will keep showing us in its gentler forms. And if we're not prepared to listen, it will keep coming in forever ending hardship. And I say that with my clients when they come in with like a little health issue or something, you know, physically going on in their body, and they come to me before it gets to that point of like, you know, it's harder to treat. And I think that's that, having that awareness of like, hey, this is showing me something. I just need to be present to really stop and listen and be like, thank you for showing me this, so I can move beyond these limitations, so we can grow into that next level of abundance and rise and feel our most authentic self. And that will definitely, I believe, bring in the right clients, the right people, and the right experiences that we deserve.
100%. Yes.
And is there anything else? I know you've got a breathwork training coming up. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any offerings that people can connect with you if they like to see?
Yeah. So yeah, we have our breath coach training starting on the 11th of May, 2021. So that's a 3-week program where we take you through some of the really kind of solid foundations and fundamentals of breath work. And then I have my workshop on the 15th, which is a paid workshop. So it's, if you sign up before the 15th or sort of before the workshop starts, then it's $55. But it's going to be available as a workshop afterwards as well. So if you want to join, but you know you can't make it live because perhaps the timing doesn't work, it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Bali time, then you can still purchase the workshop afterwards. Like, it's very experiential, it's going to be very sort of body based, it's going to be really sort of beautiful movement and emotional releasing and moving through stuff. Then you can do that. It is going to be $111 after the event, so it will be kind of going up. So if you are interested, I would say get in before the 15th of May. I'd love to see you. And then I also do work one-on-one with people. So, you know, if you are a little more experienced in business, and you're looking for really more of that like energetic support, you know that you are expanding and up leveling in your business, you know that, for example, like you're wanting to raise your rates, you're wanting to sort of hold space for more, like more abundance, more clients, but you notice that your energy, your thoughts, your experience is quite sort of volatile in that space. Like you know, an example that I give is that you might have like a 10K month one month, and then a 2K month another month, and then a 15K month, and then nothing, and you just can't quite seem to sustain a sort of a particular level. Then I work with people one-on-one for a minimum of 2 months to sort of help them to energetically align to the level of income that they're really desiring. So if anybody's interested in that level of support, then for sure reach out.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm so excited for the workshop. I love dancing. It's definitely it's a medicine for sure. And we, especially the women in that masculine kind of running businesses and being, solo parents, we kind of need to embrace that flow and really bring that into our business. So thank you, Rachel, for your time and your energy and for your support. And I love having you as a mentor and role model in my life. And very grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back on your podcast. I love our conversation so much.
My pleasure. And yeah, stay tuned. And if you guys want to join us on the workshop, I'll put the link in the bio in the show notes, and you can sign up and see us on the 15th. Look forward to seeing you next week on the Dharma Journey. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to connect with us, my Instagram is @BriarRoots, @the Dharma Journey. Please feel free to send us your favorite episode, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to reach and connect with me further, I offer weekly women circles every Sunday. Also, Ayurvedic healing programs, consultations. So all of my details are at the bottom. Thank you so much for listening. This is really a part of the Dharma Journey movement to bring us closer together, connection, community, collaboration, and really inspire one another on our path towards liberation. Thank you so much for listening. Have an incredible day. I hope.